Hello, welcome to the Bearded Tits podcast, hosted by me, Jack Perks. Professionally, I'm a wildlife cameraman, but I dabble in podcasting, and each Tuesday we release an episode as I have a chat with scientists, artists, filmmakers, and passionate people all about nature in a light-hearted and certainly not serious way. Hello and welcome to the Bearded Tits podcast. I'm your host, Jack Perks. Now, if I sound a little bit coarse, it's because I'm just getting over flu, which seems like half the country are at the moment. I've just got back from Berlin, Germany, because I was filming a European sturgeon rewilding project, which is something I've always wanted to go out there and see. And that kind of brings me on to today's guest, which is Harvey Tweats. Now, Harvey is a rewilder. He's a fantastic young man, and he's one half of Celtic Rewilding. And one of the projects that him and Tom Whitehurst are working on is to bring back 3 species of British frog to the British Isles, which is something I'm very excited about. A lot of people know I'm quite partial to frogs, so I can't wait to talk to Harvey about that. Before we do that, if my voice will hold, I'm going to mention buymeacoffee.com. So for those who know, this podcast is completely independent. I don't make any money really from advertising. I get a few dollars from it, but not a great deal. So the only way that I can keep going is via you, the listener. So if you can donate something, I'm asking for the price of a coffee, about £5. You can help keep me going. So you can leave a message if you do that. So I'm going to read out a few. So Steve Reed bought me 3 coffees and he put, bloody hell, the price of coffee these days. Good luck with your plans, Jack. Long overdue, your insightful views on all these things in the natural world, but especially fish. I can't think of anyone better qualified to swim around in open sewage system, brackets, otherwise known as rivers and lakes. Let us know what manages to eke out a living there. Great work today. Keep it coming like a dicky tummy. So, one of the things I'm trying to do at the minute is raise £1,000, and I'm 15% there, to basically get some big guests on the podcast because I need the money to travel and go see them. And I put out a call on the last episode, so a few people have kind of seen that. One of the guests I really wanted to get on was Jeremy Wade. We've actually recorded that podcast, so thanks to you who've donated. That podcast is happening, so thank you. Chris Yates is coming on. He's agreed to do it. And I've also got somebody who is, I won't say who it is, but someone who's big in the campaigning world. I was trying to get Fergal Sharkey. He's gone a little bit quiet on me, but I've got somebody else in mind. They did say they were keen. We're just arranging a date, and we're going to be talking about how a very iconic lake in England is basically fucked. Anyway, let's get back to some more people who've donated money. So Mead Fishing bought 5 coffees, but from the lads at Mead, keep up the great work. Appreciate that. They're a great bunch. I'll check them out on Instagram. They do some good fishing content. Stephen bought me a coffees, but I've just listened back to Chris Yates' podcast and reckon it's worth a coffee to get him on again. Passion for Angling was the perfect TV show. So yeah, he is coming back on. We can talk about hen harriers. Someone anonymously donated and put, really enjoyed the recent Eagles podcast. And then Akeef, I hope I'm saying that right, bought 3 coffees and he put, really enjoyed the podcast. Very informative. Keep up the good work. So if you feel so inclined, if you can donate whatever you can afford to help keep this podcast going, you can leave a message and I'll read it out in the next show. That would be greatly appreciated. There is a link in the description, or you can go to buymeacoffee.com and just search for Jack Perks Bearded Tits podcast. It should all come up. My original plan was to do a podcast on the state of the wildlife film industry because it's pretty knackered. However, that's requiring a lot more research than I anticipated. We're on the lead up to Christmas now. I try not to do too much work near Christmas. In fact, this is the last thing I'm doing before I sign off for the year. So I've decided to go into the vault and pick out this episode because basically what I do each season, or what I try to do, is pre-record as many episodes as possible. And then it means that I can get episodes throughout the year. They all have a different flavour to it. So I recorded this with Harvey quite a few months ago, which he found quite funny because he's got a crowdfunder. And he's like, oh, this will be great. We can get this crowdfunder out. And I was like, well, it's not going out for a few months. So Harvey will be chuffed that this is actually out now and people can donate to that. He'll talk about it. There'll be a link in the description to it, which you can find out. Anyway, let's get on with today's episode. Let's find out a little bit about some of these frog species that are being reintroduced as I head over to Leek in Staffordshire and I get to meet some of these frogs at the facility and talk to Harvey all about Britain's lost frogs. Here's our chat.
Harvey, welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks, Jack. How many years has it been?
It's got to be a couple at least, hasn't it? Maybe a little bit more than that. We were in your living room, I think,
Yeah,
me,
I think
you and
so.
Tom. Tom is around somewhere. He's off doing very important things on site. So we're at Celtic Rewilding's headquarters today. We're currently stood in... Well, what are we stood in, Harvey? Where are we?
This is a frog house that we call
I like
it.
that. I love that.
It's our own design, and it's been built by my sister and my dad, because my sister's a carpenter, so she's very, very good with this sort of thing, and it's supposed to mimic the specific temperature that some of these frogs quite like.
It's basically, to give people like, it's basically a greenhouse, I guess.
Yeah.
Or similar to a greenhouse. And then you've got sections with different animals in each one. And in front of us, I can't see any at the moment, but there are some frogs in here somewhere.
Absolutely, yeah. So in this enclosure we've got more frogs. They're an incredible species. The males of this species turn blue in the breeding season. It's only for a few days, but when it does happen, the whole sides of lakes and water bodies go this aquamarine. It's just incredible. And it attracts a lot of people to see it. So in Sweden, in the Netherlands, it's actually kind of a key marker of spring for people there. It's a real hit with naturalists and photographers to go and see it.
I treat common frogs like that here. As soon as we get the first clumps of spawn, spring's coming.
Absolutely.
So it's a similar thing for them, is it, but with a different species?
Absolutely, yeah.
So we've got... Well, I'll let you tell more about it. You've got a project, Lost Frogs. So just tell me a little bit about that and what the frogs are that we've lost.
Yeah, so Britain is renowned for its basically crap reptile and amphibian assemblage.
Yeah.
Just bordering the UK in terms of the North Sea, so places like France, Germany, the Netherlands, there's something like a combined 42 species of reptile and amphibian species compared to our 13 here.
Yeah.
And that's a real discrepancy, and the main reason is at the end of the day we're an island in Northern Europe. There was only a short amount of time for animals to actually cross over and get to the UK. But I don't think that adequately explains everything either. I think that potentially human factors have caused the decline of some of these species, which we'll talk about. So, in the UK, we've got 2 species of frogs, and actually, prior to the 1990s, it was thought we just had 1 species of frog. We've got the common frog, which people will see in their gardens. It's a very commensal species. It likes to live near people. It will live in fish ponds and that sort of thing. And then we've got the pool frog. Now, for a while, the pool frog was regarded as non-native. It was thought to be introduced. But in the 1990s, a chap named Charles Snell and also another chap called David Billings started to have an inkling that maybe this was a native species. And so a working group was established, actually chaired by the legendary Trevor Beebe, amphibian expert, to actually see whether the pool frog was native. And on the conclusion of genetic studies, bioacoustic studies, so studying the calls of pool frogs, subfossil and historical records, they are native. But unfortunately, in that time, the pool frog actually went extinct.
Sounds about right, yeah.
But the interesting thing that those studies did was actually find that it wasn't just the pool frog which has gone extinct. It's another 3 species as well. So from archaeological records, we know that the moor frog and the agile frog are 2 extra species which have gone extinct. And from historical records, we know that the European tree frog was present in British nature, is also not present today. So 3 amphibians out of a total native of 3 frogs out of a total native of 5 frogs is a huge contraction or loss of species. And so my project, very gratefully funded by the Sir Winston Churchill Fellowship Trust, is actually investigating this disaster of a contraction of species that we've lost from Britain.
More than doubling what we had. So
absolutely.
I guess because a lot of people might not even know what a moor frog, agile frog, maybe have some idea of a tree frog. Do you want to just kind of tell us a little bit more about those?
The moor frog and the agile frog are in effect sort of sister species to the common frog.
Yeah.
So they all sit within the same genus, Rana, and Rana in Europe is also known as the brown frogs, or the terrestrial frogs, or the grass frogs, and these are species of frogs which their basic breeding biology is to wake up in the spring, go to a pond, drop their eggs, and then go and live the rest of their life on land. The pool frog is also known as a water frog or a green frog. It stays in the pond all year round, depositing eggs all through the summer generally. So the agile frog is like a very slim version of a common frog. They actually get slightly longer actually. They've got very long hind legs. They've got the ability to jump 2 metres and up to 1 metre in height. So it's a huge, incredible leaping ability, and catching them in Denmark and Germany, and we'll talk about that later on, was definitely really trying at some points. The moor frog is like a more stout version of a common frog. It's smaller, it's the smallest of the three. It's also quite agile, but it's not as it can't jump as far as the agile or the common frog.
No, okay.
And these species live all throughout Europe. So to give you an idea, the moor frog is found in northern France. It then goes all the way east, all the way to Lake Baikal, so basically almost Mongolia. It goes all the way north to the Arctic Circle in Scandinavia, and it goes south into the Balkans in Europe. The agile frog's got a much smaller range. It occurs all through France, into Germany, all through Eastern Europe, but then it has these amazing scattered populations which exist throughout northern Germany, into Denmark, and then all the way up into Sweden to an island called Åland. And Åland is on roughly the same line of latitude as Scotland, so really far north.
Yeah.
But it's got this really odd scattered distribution, and that's what's really interested me with this study. And then the cutest out of all three amphibians is the European tree frog.
It's the poster child, isn't it, really?
Is, absolutely. One of the things that we totally agreed on when I was away with the Europeans was that not only is that the biggest hit with photographers, the reserve we were at was packed with photographers taking photographs of tree frogs.
These are wild tree frogs.
These are wild tree frogs in an incredible nature. We'll get to that story later on, but an incredible nature reserve. And there must have been 100 photographers, I'd say, there.
Really?
Quite crazy, just taking photos. Even tours, so people would, like how you do workshops, they would take people to go and learn how to take. It was absolutely insane. And the other thing we agreed on is even people who don't like frogs are quite, they quite like a tree frog.
It's a chubby little thing staring at you that's bright green, and they don't move. They're not. I think some people who have like a rational fear of frogs, like my mother-in-law doesn't like frogs. It's the jump. It's what they don't like. It's not the frog.
So she'd hate an agile frog.
She would. Yeah, I'm gonna try and chuck some at her. I think, so that'd be fun. But yeah, no, it's that jump, isn't it? Yeah. It's that sudden movement that people don't like.
And tree frogs have got this really good ability. They just sit still, even when guys with camera lenses were literally just 15 centimeters, something like that, away, and they're not moving.
No.
So the European tree frog, very, very different to the other species. It's part of the tree frog group, which most people would associate with the tropics.
Yeah.
And it does look like a tropical animal, but it actually ranges all through France, into Germany, touches western Poland, up through Denmark and into Sweden as well. And Sweden, we'll get to it, but Sweden is it's got a very key part to play in this story. The interesting thing with tree frogs, though, is that for a while it was believed that the European tree frog spanned all the way from Portugal to almost Japan. But genetic studies have now shown that actually it's something like 18 species makes up. They are indistinguishable, some of the species are. So there's an eastern tree frog that occurs in Eastern Europe that looks, you can only separate it genetically from the European tree frog of France and Germany and that sort of thing.
If you had one in the hand, you couldn't
tell.
Right,
no, not at all. So that also has an implication for tree frogs in this particular tale as well. But all in all, the three frog species quite different. have got, you know, quite different distributions. But one thing that you'll notice is they go really quite far north. Denmark into Sweden, some even further north than that, and that's really important.
Because I suppose a lot of people will be thinking, is the UK too cold or whatever? And obviously if they're making it to Scandinavia, then we know the cooler side of things is presumably not an issue.
Exactly. And also from a species history perspective, if you look at Scandinavia, although it is attached to Europe, it goes all the way up into the Arctic Circle, and before it then comes back down through Finland. And so in effect it's actually really an island from a biogeographical sort of angle. So if species were able to cross the sea at the end of the last ice age between Denmark and Sweden, we know that they've got the capability to do the same from the Netherlands to the UK, in effect.
Okay, yeah.
So that's why it's really important, because it shows that the species were able to get to island-like habitats before the sea levels rose. And there is absolutely no reason why European tree frogs wouldn't have made it to the UK. There isn't, you know, both the UK and Sweden were cut off at exactly the same time. The habitat that would have prevailed, sort of low, sort of scrub, bramble, lots and lots of pools, would have just been absolute perfect habitat for them. Sweden has got this very importance biogeographically with the pool frog as well. So the UK pool frogs are actually closest related to Swedish pool frogs, as opposed to ones that occur just over in Belgium or France or whatever. And that is again because of basically the way the species moved to the UK.
Do we know when we lost these animals? Because I guess that's a key question, isn't it?
So it's very, very hard to pinpoint, because we only have to look at the investigations into species like the beaver or the wolf to find that actually working out when the last one died is just a fool's errand. You know, beavers, there's debate within even the academic community as to when they went extinct. So Derek Gow, beaver...
academics not getting on with each other. That doesn't sound right.
So Derek Gow would vehemently defend the idea that they went extinct potentially in the 19th century. Because
beavers did?
Yeah.
Really?
So there's historical records from the Humber, around that area, a place called Bolton Percy. Someone killed a beaver in I can't remember the exact date, but in the 19th century.
Really? Wow.
Whereas Lee Ray would argue, Lee is an incredible wildlife historian. Just what they do is just absolutely astounding, with mapping the distribution of wildlife. It's absolutely incredible. And Lee would argue that beavers went extinct, maybe even Roman period, in large parts of England.
That's quite a difference, isn't it?
So there's a big difference. So if we're thinking about a big animal like a beaver,
yeah. And I guess as well, sorry to cut in there, but like we know we definitely, it's not like, it's not if we know we had them, because you've got places like Beverley, is it Beverley or what? So it's not even we knew we had them, we're just not agreeing when we didn't. But with the frogs, like you're saying,
the wolf as well is an interesting one, because it is all over the place. So some people say that the last place it definitely survived was Scotland. That's you know. That can't be argued, but some people say it maybe went extinct as early as the 16th century. However, some recent research by Daniel Shreve, who's an incredible zoo archaeologist, has found that it could have survived on Shetland into the 19th century.
There were wolves on Shetland?
So there's a
How the
bone
fuck did they get to Shetland?
A bone has been discovered, and it's of a wolf. It was genetically tested. I mean, I don't know the tale. She did a talk at a conference, and it was fabulous. But we just don't know. Even charismatic animals, we don't know.
Okay, that's the point, yeah.
So the rule is, with frogs, is that my belief is that they went extinct probably prior to 1800.
Okay.
Because, and my reasoning for that is, if you look at some of these habitats, by that point they were destroyed, you know. They were absolutely horrendous. And also, my assumption is that by the late 1800s, we had that many naturalists that they would have noticed some of these species.
Yeah, I was actually, just before you mentioned, I was just thinking that's when everyone was discovering things or categorizing things. You would know, wouldn't you? Yeah.
That being said, species like the moor frog weren't discovered in the Netherlands until 1897, which is very late, and in France until 1924. So
Right.
so if we actually look at the history of amphibians and the history of them as implicated in ecology and the study of the environment, we see that they've historically been so maligned. So some of the earliest naturalists, being Linnaeus, for instance, he called them the most abhorrent animals on earth because of they've got harsh skin, a foul voice, they're slimy. Basically, completely, said I've got no interest.
Yeah.
Thomas Pennant, who was a Welsh naturalist from the UK, who studied lots of species, also said of the toad, in particular, it's the most hideous animal that he's ever seen.
What a bastard.
And John Morton,
What's he going to say now?
he wrote the Natural History of Northamptonshire. He said that something along the lines of, if there are different species of frogs and toads, I can't be asked to identify them, basically.
What a prick. What a prick.
So early naturalists...
Is he dead now? Is he still going?
They're all dead.
Oh, good. All right, then. I don't want to get beaten up by a naturalist. Go on.
So you see very easily that they've all these species have been historically maligned, and just no one's been interested in them. And that even carries on to modern day. Amphibians are one of the least funded animals in terms of conservation. And look at the pool frog story. We didn't realise pool frogs were native until the 1990s. Archaeology of recent amphibians and reptiles is regarded as probably the most neglected field of zoological archaeology. So we still see it today, this aversion to them and just disinterest, really.
Finding those tiny bones must be a ball
absolute
ache.
nightmare.
It must be so hard to do that.
We do have one of the leading experts, though, in the country for amphibian identification and reptile, and that is Chris Gleed Owen. And I spoke to him about the difficulties of amphibian archaeology, and one of the stories he did tell me was when he was analysing finds from Ely in Cambridge for pool frog. To that point, he'd only found one fossil of pool frog, and that was in Lincolnshire. It was very difficult. Anyway, he got this box of bones, opened the top, and a pool frog bone was right on the top. And he literally went, "This is going to be the easiest, sort of discovery of pool frogs ever." And that was the only bone in a box of, over 1,000 bones or whatever, just on the top. So they're very, very fragile. And also, we have to remind ourselves that unlike the common frog, which is a commensal species, lives near people, the other three species are kind of, dare I say, wilderness frogs. So they don't come.
You're not finding them in gardens so much.
You're not finding them in gardens. And archaeological contexts, no archaeologist randomly digs up a field. They dig it because there's a old chapel or an old whatever. There's got to be a human element, and so you just rarely find these frogs. And with tree frogs in particular, to give you an idea, in the whole of the Netherlands, which has had historically huge populations of tree frogs, one bone in the whole Netherlands from the Holocene. And I was talking to Chris, interestingly, about this, and I said, "So Chris, tell me, how does a frog fossilise?" He said, "Really easy. What needs to happen is a middle-aged, or not middle-aged, a medieval person, middle-aged, but it can be whatever age, needs to dig a trench or a post hole or something to build a house or whatever. Frog needs to hop along, fall in, and die in the post hole,
right?
And then get filled in." And I said to Chris, "So you're not sort of thinking what I'm thinking when it comes to tree frogs? Tree frog hops along, falls in, climbs straight back out. A common frog, a moor frog would struggle, but even an agile frog
could probably get out.
So we just don't. These species, the fact that we've got something like 10 or 12 records for moor frog is astounding. That is better than France's archaeological record, Belgium's archaeological record. Couple of remains for agile frog. That's better than entire countries don't have a single fossil for them in Eastern Europe.
Wow.
So This is, people look at it and think, well, that's not brilliant evidence. But actually, you put it in the European context, this is incredible evidence for these species being found here. So
the $1 million question is, why did we lose them?
Well, that's a very, very good question, and I think it's sort of, there's 3 very different reasons for why we lost them for each one. So seeing as we're looking at moor frogs, I'll discuss these first. My project has been to go and visit.
So, although it doesn't sound like a phone, that is actually Harvey's phone going off. Have you done an interview before? Do you not know to...
No, I've never done one.
This is horrendous. I know I should have... Where's Tom? Is Tom available? I might just go talk to him instead. This is horrendous.
You just put everything on silent. So, what was that?
Are you ready now?
I'm ready now.
Good,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Moor frogs. My project has been to do 4 things really when it comes to amphibians. First of all, it's to complete a bit of a literature review on basically everything that's been published about these species in Britain and Northern Europe. The second thing has been to go and visit habitats which are analogous to the UK. So that is areas where the climate is similar, the land use is similar, the population density is similar, they've got similar histories. And so for me, that was to start off in Denmark, to go down through northern Germany, into the Netherlands, into Belgium, and then into northern France. This is the closest you're going to get to the UK. And to basically look at these species in the wild and speak to experts who've helped conserve them or reintroduce them or whatever, and try to identify why have they gone extinct, what is different in Europe compared to the UK, and then also look at could we have them back and how are the Europeans
basically
doing
that's what, when I asked you why we lost them, I guess my bigger question is you'd need to understand that before you bring them back.
So we've got to understand their ecology, and moor frogs, quite simply, when I mention them to ecologists say, oh, moorland, Peak District, Scotland, bits of Wales. They look, not at all. They aren't an upland species. They're actually a lowland species, and the word moor is actually a very old word that comes from just an area of kind of acidic vegetation, swampy. And back in the day, you see that it was used more for lowland bogs, lowland habitat, than it was for upland habitat. And the Europeans, especially the Dutch and the Flemish, still call their heathlands moors. That's what they call them. And so moor frogs are actually a lowland bog specialist.
So you're thinking more like Somerset Levels, Norfolk Broads sort of thing, or?
So there's actually an area that's exactly what moor frogs want, and that area sits. There's a couple of areas. The first area sits on a sandy ridge that goes through Norfolk, and there's 2 reserves, one called Roydon Common, Norfolk Wildlife Trust, and another one called Dersingham Bog, and they are some of the last remnants of lowland bog, and that would have blanketed that sort of area. Another reserve is the Thorn and Hatfield mosses, lowland bogs that are on the Humber estuary. But by and large, lowland peat bogs have been absolutely, utterly decimated. So we think that maybe as much as 50% of the UK was once bog.
Right.
Now there's only 500 hectares of lowland bog total, and that's scattered all across the country.
Wow.
We've destroyed it mainly for one reason, and that is peat. So before we knew how to mine coal, process coal and burn it, peat was basically the commodity. It was what people used to cook food, heat their house, etc. And as such, areas were just totally cut to the point where there's just no peat left. And we see there's lots of place names in, for instance, the Thames Valley, where they might be called Turf Lane or Peat Street or words to that effect, which there's no peat left anymore, but it tells you that it once was there.
Yeah.
And interesting, we've got moor frog remains from London, which is quite interesting. Roman age remains, and around about that time is when peat cutting started to become almost industrial, and that's when we lost it from the Thames. It isn't the only reason. I think a major reason before that as well was the loss of the beaver. So in Finland, the beaver's been found to facilitate moor frogs. So moor frogs, interestingly, only ever seem to live on beaver wetlands in Finland. Beavers just produce these amazing habitats for them. But also it's just been a large-scale drainage of these wetlands. One of the interesting things I was saying to Jack before we started this podcast is me going away, I've realised that we've completely kept moor frogs the wrong way here at Celtic. We completely, this enclosure we've got here is fairly dry. It's got sedges in, grasses in. Where they're actually in the wild, they're sitting in these expansive, shallow wetlands, and the moor frogs don't actually leave the water. They just stay within the water. Not like a pool frog where it's in open water. They stay in the dense, humid. So you drain those habitats, they dry out and die. So that's the reason we don't have moor frogs anymore.
Does that limit where you can reintroduce them? Or is it any kind of bog would do? Or does it have to be kind of a specific bog?
So it has to, interestingly, although the vast majority of populations occur in these acidic lowland bogs, there are two populations I visited, in one in France and one in Flanders, where they're living in odd habitats. So the one in France is actually an alkaline fen, and that's unusual for them. But they were living in this fen. The reason they like acidic conditions, I should say, is they're adapted to them, and the common frog is inhibited. So the acidic conditions mean that the common frog doesn't do very well, and that allows the moor frog to survive.
Because they fill a similar niche.
Because they fill a similar, they outcompete each other, and that will be another theme within this as well.
Right.
So they need to live in these habitats. In the alkaline bogs, they're not that common, the moor frogs, because there are common frogs there as well.
Got you.
But the oligotrophic nature, which means there's a low, it's a base poor habitat, it's got low nutrients, means that the common frog is inhibited because its tadpoles quite enjoy a large volume of algae to eat, whereas the moor frogs are a bit more, they can be a bit more frugal with their food source. So it inhibits the common frog enough that the moor frog can etch out an existence.
Do I remember you saying as well that they don't really hybridise because one breeds earlier than the other?
They can't. So they're about as distantly related, all three species, as we are to chimpanzees.
Oh, okay.
To give you an idea, so they're quite different.
So they're not likely to kind of mix if you reintroduce them.
The Soviets did some really weird experiments with trying to get them to hybridise.
Of course they did. It's not a new biological weapon.
Yeah, invade everywhere with the frog army or whatever. Yeah. They did have success, but whatever they produced was infertile.
So so people might be like, oh, are we going to create loads of hybrid? It's not going to happen. No,
not at all.
That's good to know. I'm guessing so. It must be a different story with agile frogs and tree frogs, because presumably they're not living in bogs, are they?
No. So agile frog is a wood frog.
Okay.
So it lives in woodland habitats. I think its leaping ability allows it to navigate the understory much more efficiently and escape predators. And so it needs good woodland habitat with nice woodland pools that get a little bit of sun but not full sun. Okay. The tadpoles are incredibly, and we've learnt the hard way here at Celtic Rewilding, the tadpoles are incredibly sensitive to warm temperatures. So if they're in full sun, they often die.
Oh, okay.
They can't cope with warmth. So they do need these sort of shaded environments. And we have to look at what happened to our woodlands in the UK. We reduced them down to less than 5% in about 1700, and we lost a whole suite of woodland species with it. People forget that the red squirrel, for instance, nearly went extinct in the British Isles because there wasn't enough forest cover. We've lost many of the rare longhorn beetles because we've lost our woodlands. Many woodland plants are extinct or have got discontiguous ranges. And even the yellow-necked mouse and the hazel dormouse have got very odd distributions as a result of woodland clearance. So woodland clearance is part of the story, but if woodland clearance is the sole factor, why have they survived in Denmark? Because Denmark reduced its forest to as low as maybe 2 or 3%, so even smaller than Britain. And the reason is that in Denmark they have got much more stable springs, which means the agile frog actually spawns earlier than the common frog.
Right, okay.
And that gives it not necessarily a head start, but it means its tadpoles hatch at a similar time, if not before, the common frog, and they're able to compete properly.
They're starting the race at the same time.
Yeah. Whereas in Britain, our common frogs spawn as early as December, so it removes that. So if that's the reason, then why does the agile frog also survive in northern France, which is basically
in the Channel Islands?
Yeah.
It's in Jersey. Yeah.
And the reason is because France retained its forest for much longer. It kept. I think France stayed. I don't think it ever dipped below something like 15%. Land cover was forest. It just had these forests where they could partition. And what we found in the French forests was you go into them, and we saw in one afternoon over 100 agile frogs. They're all agile frogs. There's not a single common frog. They live in these woodland habitats. And what we see on Jersey, interesting you bring that up, is that the agile frog is living on open habitats there, but the common frog is absent. So it can, because it's not
got the competition.
Yeah.
No, I went looking for them years ago. I didn't find any in Jersey, but I did find them in France. I was on a fishing TV show, and the thing that struck me is because I know about frogs a little bit, is the jumping. Because I'm like, wait a minute, that can't be a common frog. It's doing backflips or whatever. Yeah. But they're amazing, amazing to see.
So the tree frog is really interesting because its decline is completely different again. And it's actually probably the simplest one to explain out of the three, and that is simply that it was used for medicinal purposes.
That's why we lost them.
That's why we lost it. So you look at the old sort of early modern period texts, they would say to boil up a green frog. Back then, a green frog was a tree frog, not a pool frog. And to use it to cure toothache and all sorts of ailments.
Really?
And you've got...
I'm guessing it's bollocks.
Completely bollocks,
right,
yeah. Although, apparently they are slightly toxic, the tree frogs are, so maybe there is a bit of an element.
All right, well, I'll chew. If you've got a spare tree frog, I'll give one a chew.
There's one that died about a month ago.
Go on, that'll do. Yeah, go on. I'll have a nibble.
The tree frog was simply collected for medicine.
Really?
And when I was in the reserves, when you've got photographers going up within a few inches to a tree frog with their lens, they're not hard to catch.
If you go near a pool frog, they're off. You can't get anywhere near them. But the tree frogs, they're just sort of,
And what we found is some of these northern populations exist in really quite isolated sites, and you only need to take, maybe, a few dozen reproductive females.
That's a big impact.
Gone.
Yeah, sure, that makes sense.
So that's the simplest one.
So really, the habitat's good to go. It's not like we need to do... Because, and again, I remember you saying the assumption is put them in trees.
Yeah.
They don't like trees, do they?
They're a scrub frog, and we've kind of campaigned for them to be called a scrub frog. They live in bramble.
Right.
Every single tree frog, and I saw probably over 100 tree frogs while I was away, if you count the baby ones as well, were in bramble. Didn't see one in another type of tree. It's quite remarkable, really. And they're a sun-loving frog. They bake themselves. We've had them in greenhouses get up to almost 50 degrees, and they're still out in the open.
They love it. They're just not
bathing
bothered.
away. So what they do... if we want to go a bit, we've already gone nerdy, haven't we? We've already gone down that.
If people are still with us,
no way
if there's the 5 people that are still listening, I'm assuming they're as weird as me and you, Harvey. We might as well go, go for it.
Basically, the way a tree frog works is that they're nocturnal, so they go down to the floor to feed, to hunt beetles, crickets, etc. And then in the day they climb up back on top of the bramble to act as a bit of like a solar powered food converter. So they use that heat to digest the food of the night before.
Got you. Okay.
So and that way they're able to go from being a tiny frog which has emerged from the water in late July to sometimes, if you've got a very good year like we've had this year, to a full breeding adult the next year.
Really?
Whereas
that quick?
Most frogs it's 3 years.
Yes. Yeah.
So
what's the story with? Because I always hear this whenever tree frogs mentioned. There's the new forest always comes up.
Yeah.
What's the story behind that?
It's non-native.
Oh really?
Yeah.
So the tree frogs that lived in the new forest, they were not the native ones.
No. So an anonymous source. I got a tip off from an anonymous source.
This is an exclusive.
Has told me who released them. So we know that they are released, and basically an interesting thing that you see when you get to around about 1750, the naturalists say the tree frog isn't native to the UK. So they actually say, so Gilbert White says, Merritt is mistaken when he thinks Rana arborea lives in the United Kingdom. It abounds in Germany and Switzerland. So my interpretation of the text is the tree frog's gone extinct by that point.
Right, got you.
So actually it probably went extinct, I would imagine, around 1700. But prior to Gilbert White, you've got naturalists like Timothy Bright saying it's a native species. So I just think it's gone extinct. To set the historical backdrop for all this, you've got to remember that much of this was done before even Linnaeus came up with the idea of taxonomically describing species.
Yeah.
And even then, Georges Cuvier from France hadn't come up with the idea of extinction. People didn't believe that God would let one of his creations go extinct.
It's just somewhere else, you haven't found it yet or whatever, yeah.
And interestingly, go on a side note, Thomas Jefferson, I believe, in America, still believed that mastodons and mammoths were just out there in the American West somewhere, who just hadn't been found yet, because God wouldn't let one of his animals go extinct. Yeah.
Wow.
So people like Gilbert White would have they were either native or they're not found at all. There wasn't this idea that a species could perish.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we probably go extinct in around 1700 for tree frogs, but the habitat is there. You know, the rewilding sites would be really promising.
Because I guess the difference with tree frogs to the other two is that there are tree frog species readily in the pet trade, albeit, I'm assuming, not the ones that we want. Is that right? So
that's very correct. And when we established Celtic, did a bit of a tree frog project then. Genetic analysis has shown that the tree frog is all these different species, as I say, and many of the ones in the pet trade are actually hybrids between tree frogs. A tree frog from Germany is different from a tree frog that's found in Warsaw. They're completely different species.
Yeah.
And so many of them have been hybridised.
They all get mixed up in the pet shop. They end up bonking. You end up with,
So all tree frogs you see here are actually... they are the pure northern type. So we've principally got them from Germany, I should say captive bred, Germany, Netherlands, and some have come from Central Europe as well, but not the eastern type. And we keep them all separate in their localities or whatever.
And I'm guessing they're generally not available in the pet trade.
Not really. I mean, there was a chap who did breed them for a while, but he's retired with them now. But just generally not that available.
Okay, because the point I'm getting at is if there is anyone thinking, oh, I've got European tree frogs, it'll be great to set up, some in the garden.
No.
They're not the right kind. They're probably not going to breed successfully. Don't do it.
With any of these species, there's a huge disease risk.
Sure.
Do you know you've got the right animal? It's just very, very difficult. What we are doing at Celtic is investing a lot of money over winter into producing biosecure facilities. Everything that comes into this facility is disease tested to just make sure that we're doing the right thing.
I think that's a good point, because there's one thing we haven't actually mentioned, and we did kind of briefly talk about it in the last podcast we did, but obviously you're not just going out with a bucket of frogs in a white van and
absolutely not.
Get rid of them willy-nilly. This is with health checked animals in sanctioned places, working with people. Like, this isn't just some guerrilla operation. You're doing this all above board.
At the end of the day, the report that will be produced, that may actually, by the time this podcast goes out, be available, it will actually go to government. So it will go to Natural England. And, we've just got to do it the proper way. If we want to get these species back, appreciated and protected, it's important that we do it the right way.
No, 100%. Well, look, we've been talking about them, but I haven't actually seen any yet.
Fine one.
So, which one do you want to start with?
Well, I think seeing as we're near the moor frogs, and I'll tell you an interesting story, a funny story with the moor frogs. We were looking for them in one of the reserves in the Netherlands, and if you've not been to some of the peatland reserves in the Netherlands, they are absolutely incredible. Anyway, saw about 12 in one evening, and I was with a load of Dutch people, and went to pick up this moor frog that was on the floor. And I should say, prior to, I was going away for a month, so I needed to just get loads of clothes in a massive suitcase, because I wasn't going to necessarily have the facilities to wash them, so I just went to Primark to get all these clothes.
Right.
and just filled the suitcase full of just absolutely horrendous, dreadful clothes. Really, that I feel ashamed
to be honest,
buy.
I wouldn't have noticed what you wear anyway. Really.
And I go down to literally all the Dutch people are standing behind me, and I go down to bend over and pick this frog up, and I'd been wearing these trousers for about 6 hours, and they just go like that.
You just showed your bare ass to a load of Dutch people.
And literally just split all the way down the middle, and I was having to like pull them up like this to complete this wall.
What do you think of that, fellas? You know, like 2 eggs in a hanky. Yeah.
Luckily, the Dutch are quite liberal, aren't they? I mean, they're
they probably didn't bat an eyelid, did they? Go, oh. No, that's later. Let's find the frogs first, and we'll sort that out in a bit.
The good news was I did catch the frog, so that was
good.
The moor frog is hard to identify,
Yeah.
compared to the other two species for the average person. I'll actually just get.
Yeah. Go on, get stuck in, mate.
But I'll try and see.
I'd love, because I'm yet to see a blue one. I would love to see a breeding, but they don't do it for long, do they? Is that right?
2 days.
Oh, is that it? Bloody hell! Right, so you've got to be on it to.
They did go blue this year. I mean, you've got to. I'm gonna have to.
If you see it, just if I'm about,
I'll just text you because it did happen this year.
Did it? What time of year normally?
It happened at the start of March.
Start of March. Okay. Well, yeah. No. Oh, there's one. Yeah. I'm just waiting for your pants to rip now.
There we go.
You got one? Oh, wow. Okay. Let's have a look.
So the good news with the blue ones,
God, he's fat, isn't it?
is that we've got a load of males that will be ready to breed next year. So
Right.
we could probably have 20 or 30. We could even set up a.
Yeah, that'd
to
be
be
good,
really
wouldn't
good.
it?
So, key ways to differentiate them. First of all, that is an adult male. So that's it.
Compared to a common frog, I mean, it's like a common frog would be twice that size, right?
Absolutely. Just try and get him in a good position.
Yeah.
There we go. So yeah, that's an adult frog. So
Wow.
what's that? Maybe 4 or 5 centimeters from snout to vent. The second thing is, look at the nose. You see how pointed it is.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a common frog would have a round nose.
Yeah.
It's pointed. The next thing is this male doesn't have the best example, but this long line is a stripe down the back. And in addition, the face mask, which is the dark part of the face, has this what shape would you call it? Almost semicircle like shape. In a common frog and an agile frog, it's more angular.
Got you. Okay.
And the other thing is, a common frog would often have a very mottled, dirty belly.
Yeah.
A male moor frog has this basically just white cream.
It's like a creamy
belly.
colour, isn't it? Yeah.
But
wow.
yeah. So that's them. And
so once you kind of know that, they're not too difficult to ID.
No,
but you'd
not
have
at
to
all.
you'd have to have a good look. You know,
Yeah.
if it's just sat in a bush, you might struggle a bit. But
that's why when we were in the Netherlands, we caught that one to actually ID them.
yeah,
What you notice from afar is the flash of the line
yeah,
on the back. You see that, and
Sure,
that's when
yeah.
you jump down to grab it. Really, I'll just put this.
yeah, nice one, mate.
They
Okay.
like the damp sort of.
Well, with the dry, I mean, this is the first. We're in middle of August
Oh,
now.
it's dreadful,
This is
isn't
the
it?
first kind of damp, grey day we've had in ages. It has been so dry, which I'm guessing your reptiles have been loving, but the amphibians
Yeah.
mixed reviews. What agile frog next? Is that
Yeah.
easiest or? Oh, we're just in the next paddock, are we?
Let's try these buggers. Bloody hell.
This is going to be like the raptor in the first Jurassic Park, isn't it?
I'm not coming out of it.
No,
It's a place.
if the frogs get you, I'm leaving you to it.
So, what they do. See them bloody jumping off.
Was that one?
Yeah.
Bloody hell. God, there's some speed on him.
Yeah, he's there.
Oh, I see. Yeah. God, it's quick, innit?
What I'll do is, if I just try and
Okay.
don't go in the water, whatever.
Oh, he's gone under the pond, hasn't he?
They all so in the summer when it's dry, like we've had this dry spell, they hide away actually in log piles.
Right, okay.
You kind of have to just.
You've got to
disturb
poke
them.
around until one...
See if I can.
So they're not likely just to be sat in the pond doing their thing?
No, they don't.
Oh, what was that?
Could have
That's
been a
something
marsh
else.
frog.
Yeah, okay.
They're very. They're actually able to tolerate dryness the best out of all three species,
Right.
really.
That completely checks out with the ones I saw in France, because yeah, they were in like very dry leaf litter in a warm part of France. So
And I mean, their coloration is actually. You look at it. Well, we'll grab one. It blends in so well.
oh, what's that? That's one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Go on, Harvey.
Ah.
Got him?
Jumped out.
The perils of working with wildlife. That looked quite a chunky one.
Yeah, it's a female, that one.
Oh, okay. Oh, she's still in the pond?
Yeah. I'll just move that there.
Yeah, okay. Oh, now it's all proper kicking. Oh, you got it? Oh, yeah, you got him. Got her. Yeah. I do realise we could just be making this up because it's a podcast. Like, but it's
Foley
just,
art, just
it's just me and you in your kitchen pretending to catch a frog.
it's how I get out of this position without.
Yeah, you. Oh God.
Just hope I don't be.
There we go.
There we go.
Right, let's have a look at this one. Oh yeah,
If
much bigger than the
If this
moor
gets
frog.
out, we're doomed.
Yeah,
So I'm going to just hold it.
yeah,
over
yeah.
here.
Okay.
So, differences. Very pointed snout.
Yes.
Beak-like snout. The face mask isn't that semicircle, it's that angular line.
Yeah, I see.
And another thing is that the face mask doesn't go, can you see the line of the mouth?
Yeah.
It doesn't ever go underneath. In a common frog,
It kind of
it
curls
can
round,
go
does it?
underneath, yeah.
Got you.
Very long legs. I won't do it because I don't think it's that humane. But one way you can differentiate is to pull the leg across to the body here,
Yeah.
and the heel will extend far beyond the snout.
Right. Okay.
The leg will be
Got you.
that long, and that's obviously why they're just so good.
So
at
I
jumping away.
would have a much harder time telling that from a common frog than the moor frog. The moor frog seems a little bit more distinct to me.
The other way you can tell is the tympanum, which is the eardrum,
Yeah.
is very close to the eye, literally a couple of millimetres,
Sure. Yeah.
and about the same size.
Yeah. I would say that. Yeah.
In a common frog, it's smaller. Same with the moor frog, I think. I think it's, yeah. Another thing is just the jizz. And I don't mean-
Excuse me. Well,
is they're very easy to identify on the looks, I think. So
Okay.
they've got a V shape there,
yeah. Oh wow! I never
Ti-
noticed that before.
tiger striped legs, like you can see how striped they are. And you can and I get to the point where you just see one in a forest in France.
You know.
It's going mental, jumping around the place. It's an agile frog.
I guess it's kind of like me with my roach, my rudd, my dace, the little silvery
Yeah.
fish that other people like. They're just
Yeah.
all the same thing. And like, well, no, they got subtle differences. So,
But I just think they're very. I think they're very nice. I mean,
kind of more coppery,
I was
isn't it?
speaking
That
to an
one.
Italian biologist, and he went, "Oh, the agile frog. Oh, I hate those agile frogs." And I said, "Why? Where's this? Is there some childhood issue here or something?"
Frog beat him up as a kid or something.
And basically, the reason why is in Italy, the common frog is very rare, and the agile frog is very
Oh,
common.
is that right?
So he's, just because it's so common.
Yeah.
And then also white belly.
Yes,
Maybe
yeah.
a few bits of freckling, but not much.
No.
And that's
Okay.
a female which will breed next
She looks
year.
pretty chunky. Yeah, she's probably got some.
These, for some reason, are huge. There's another one in the pond, actually. These, for some reason, are huge.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Do they not normally get this big? Is this a big one?
No, this is sort of normal wild size. But the interesting thing in Denmark and France was that, kind of with all other species, you rarely ever see adults. It's always young animals that you see.
Just hide away. I'm guessing.
The moor frog that caused me to moon was that was a one from last year, for instance. And what I understand from the biologists is that that basically the just sheer numbers. There's just, there may only be 5% of the animals are adults. Vast majority are
thousands of young ones. No, that makes sense.
Cool.
Well, let's cap it off. Let's go see a tree frog. The superstars of the show, really, aren't they? But I'll have a little nosy at those.
Well, you see how big she is, and she's just sat there. Yeah, it's a big frog.
She's
isn't
a
it?
chunk. And I would say, if you're curious about seeing what they actually look like, you're on social media, right? You've got
on social media or workshop.
Yeah, which we are doing one. I was going to plug that at the end, but we've mentioned it now. But yeah, I have got
cats out the back.
Yeah,
frogs out the hand.
Frogs out the hand. The pants are out. The moon is out the pants. But yeah, if you want to come along to Celtic Rewilding next year, I can't remember the date off the top of my head, but we have set a date, haven't we?
Yeah.
And you can come and photograph these animals, and we've got storks as well. If you're into the feathery things, but we'll have several animals that you can come and do a photography day with us. So I don't know if there'll be spaces when this comes out, but if you want to hire onto that, you can. Oh, wow, that is beautiful. That's absolute. That is it's offensively green.
Yeah.
That is so green.
So I like to put them on the leaf because they seem to sit better.
Yeah, sure. Wow, that is gorgeous.
Small frog, 4 centimetres maybe maximum. Just make sure no others are.
Yeah, you don't want them all getting out, do you?
Um,
and they're kind of what's the enclosure these guys are in? It's like a bird cage. Not bird cage, but
this is a mesh enclosure.
Mesh enclosure.
And
okay.
We've got in here. We've actually got grapevines, so I might have a go at making my own wine.
Yeah, you could do Celtic wine.
And yeah, so a tiny little frog, 4 centimetres or so, and interestingly, as this grass green colour, and that's very typical of the northern tree frog.
Right.
The other thing to look at is that it's got this line that runs from the nostril through the eye, past the tympanum or tympanum, I don't know exactly how you say it, across the belly, and then goes in this spur at the back of the leg. And that is also very typical of the northern sort of tree frog.
Got you, okay.
So yeah, absolutely stunning animal. Europe's loudest amphibian as well, being
Are they
that
really?
small. The males call from April all the way through to July, something like that. And you can hear the call. When I was in the Netherlands, we heard the call from about 1.5 miles away, something like that, and tracked them down that way. So just absolutely stunning. Incredibly threatened though in Northern Europe. Although the species is described as least concern, in places like Denmark, they actually have historically seen a 99% decline.
Wow.
And the reason is because they suffer badly from inbreeding, and they have got a ecology which is often described as vagile. And vagile means a species which is like boom and bust and is very good at dispersing.
So you'll have 1 year, they do incredibly well, they'll spread out, they might establish somewhere else, and then...
You don't have other habitat that's popping up and becoming suitable, then where are those dispersing animals going to go?
Yeah.
And that's the real sort of issue. So just look at that.
It's gorgeous, that's absolutely gorgeous, yeah, that needs to be the logo. So look, last question before we go, why should we bring them back? People will say, why do we need another 3 little frogs in Britain?
It's a very, very good question, and I'm gonna answer it probably a little bit differently to what people would expect, and that is that this isn't about frogs. This project fundamentally isn't just about these amazing animals. It's about our relationship to the natural world and what we choose to have as our future. We have a backdrop now of horrendous declines. Amphibians being the fastest declining of all the vertebrate species. Climate change and, really, really dire times. And as a country, as Britain, we've modified our landscapes for thousands of years. And don't get me wrong, they've produced beautiful landscapes like the Peak District, the Lake District, etc. But actually, we need to look at restoring some of that functional diversity back to make a resilient landscape. And if we just disregard these species as, oh well, it's just a frog, or is it really, it isn't native, is it really? If we do that, if we don't investigate this, we're potentially meaning that our ecosystems are going to be forever impoverished. I've set out to investigate these species similar to how an investigator, without being dramatic, but how an investigator would establish a death, whether it was a murder. And the whole rationale has been that that I never want to rule out that it could be a human agency, could be humans that have caused it. And so I really wanted to look at it critically. And what we've found is at the end of the day, these species deserve to be in these landscapes thriving again. And with climate change, it's only going to be more important that we restore animals that are suited to the climate, etc. So that's the answer. There are other scientific reasons like ecosystem functioning, provision of having animals in the food chain. All these different species spawn at different times and whatever. But ultimately, I think it's the social angle which is most important. It's about rewilding our own lives, our own minds.
I'd love to think that I can walk along a nature reserve in Britain in, I don't know what the timeline is for this, but 5, 10, 15 years, and hear a chorus of tree frogs and see them on some bramble, or go to a wetland and see a load of blue moor frogs. That would just be wonderful, wouldn't it? Who wouldn't want to see that?
Just be incredible.
It would be good. Well, look, I think I'm overdue a cup of tea, mate. So shall we call it there? But but thanks. You've got a crowdfunder, right?
Yeah. So we want to make this a reality. We're committed to delivering this. The next stage for us is to start to secure funding so we can do disease risk analysis, so that we can look at securing animals from Europe, etc. So we're running a little crowdfunder that if people want to get involved, want to sponsor the project, etc., they can do. I'm sure Jack will leave a link somewhere.
No, I won't. No. Yeah, I'll put a link in the description. So if anyone would like to help Celtic Rewilding out with this, that'd be fantastic. Yeah.
Thanks for having me on.
Nice one.
That was Harvey Tweats. I really enjoyed that day. It was great to talk to Harvey about frogs, to see some of the species. It's an incredible facility that they have. Got to feed the storks that day as well. It was absolutely brilliant. There's a link in the description to their crowdfunder. So if you want to help those guys out, you can see that there. If you can help the podcast out, that would be absolutely fantastic if you can support that in any way. Another thing that we're all running together on the 26th of April 2026 is a photography day, and this is going to be on their site in Leek in Staffordshire. It's £125 per person. There's 8 spaces, and you can come and photograph the white storks. You can come and see and photograph some of the frogs that they have, including the ones that we mentioned in this podcast. Potentially, if there's species you want that we don't have on the day, if you let us know beforehand, we can also get access to them. So it's basically going to be a really varied photography day, and you get to see the facility. It's great. We've run these before in the past. They've been great fun. Harvey and Tom kind of will give you a bit of a tour of the site. They'll show you the species, and I'll go through some of the photography tips. So if you would like to learn a little bit about photography, if you'd like to see some species that are being reintroduced in the UK, 26th of April 2026, there are still spaces for that if you want to do it. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed it. It's been a fantastic year. I've really enjoyed doing the podcast this year. We've got some great podcasts for next year. I've already, as I say, recorded many of them. I've got some good guests. I feel like we're going to go out on a bang. I've still got 1 or 2 more to record. So yeah, I'm really excited. Thanks for everyone for the support. I really appreciate you tuning in, listening, and for those who have donated, thanks for that as well. And I hope you all have a Merry Christmas. I'm going to go and have a cup of tea now, rest my throat, and try not to feel quite so fluey. This has been the Bearded Tits Podcast. I've been your host, Jack Perks, and I'll see you next Tuesday. Cheers.